You may have to approve that. I'm not sure if you're cool with it. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Okay. Right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Louis B. Free Radio Show, Brain Food from the Heartland. After copyright B. Free Radio Limited, 2024, produced by Loved and Ms. Money Face in cooperation with White Rabbit Productions. The Louis B. Free Radio Show, Brain Food from the Heartland is an adult-oriented show intended for and only for a mature adult audience, whatever that means these days. Listener discretion is strongly advised. From the Otis Band, I'm honored to have Boone Froggett as my guest. Boone, delighted, honored.
Well, thanks, man. I'm glad to be here.
I'm honored. I was telling you off air, I've got so many questions. I was reviewing stuff last night and then in the middle of the night and then early this morning. And I want to start with, tell me about you. Let's go. How do you mind if I ask how old you are?
33.
83. And it amazes me, the music and what you've been doing for so many years for a 33-year-old. And I know it's all relative. To a 20-year-old, you're an older guy. I always say,
Sure.
I'm approaching 71, and I was telling a guy that's telling me, almost 65, I said, enjoy your youth, because it's all relative. But for young, take me back and tell me about Boone Froggett growing up.
Well, my here's kind of how I got into the whole music thing. My grandfather was an old-time bluegrass fiddler. He had won a couple of the state champion awards in Kentucky, and he had a music venue that had a TV show, and I mean, I was always going places with him to whether it be a fiddling competition or a bluegrass festival. So that's kind of how I got into this whole thing. And my dad, he is a kind of a honky tonk Bakersfield style guitar player. So I was ruined. I was in a house full of musical instruments, and that's kind of how it got going, man. They had me on stage at 8 years old, and
Oh,
I
tell me,
really did.
wait, I'm
Go
sorry, tell
ahead.
me about that. On stage at 8 years old.
Yeah, they need the band needed a drummer. They lost a drummer, and they had a set of drums at home. And my dad took all the drums away except for the snare and the bass drum. He said, if you can learn how to play these two, the rest of it, will come later. So that's kind of how I learned a very basic, rudimentary, just timekeeping, and it served me really well, throughout my whole life. But yeah, I was on stage playing Merle Haggard and Charlie Pride and all that stuff at 8 years old.
Well, your memory of that, nervous. I mean, or you just because you were 8, you were young. What I dare say, too young to be nervous, or
Yeah, I think I'd been around it so much that I was kind of immune to the nerves. It was just something that the family did every weekend. So to get up there and be a part of it just felt kind of natural.
so would you say like kind of in your blood with the legacies that you're talking about,
Oh,
or in the blood?
absolutely, absolutely, and it's interesting the music that I grew up listening to. I didn't really hear any rock and roll or blues until I was a teenager. When I grew up, it was all old time music, bluegrass music, classic country music, and then as I got into my teens, I took an interest in guitar, and I got into my dad's cassette collection. He had BB King and the Fabulous Thunderbirds, and once I heard that stuff, I didn't care so much about the other anymore. I was I was ready to follow that path, especially BB King. Hearing BB King for the first time, it was like being hit by a bolt of lightning. It was like, hey, this is what I want to do right here.
Tell me a little bit more about that, about listening to BB King for the first time. It
Well,
changed.
man, I'd
Go ahead.
I'd, I'd never heard anything like that. But I'd heard Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis and things like that. And but man, once I heard BB sing, and then hearing him play, doing that thing he does where he hits one note and just holds it for a couple of bars. I'm like, man, that is where it's at right there. I'd never heard anything that made me feel like that. And I thought, man, if I could ever make somebody feel like BB King makes me feel, that would be the greatest thing in the world.
That's interesting. That's interesting. And I remember BB King from when I was, of course, like I said, I'm approaching 71. Obviously, way back. And my dad had some stuff and would buy an album once in a while. But I remember buying BB King at, I think, live at Cook County Jail in
Oh
Chicago.
yeah, that's a good one.
When they're introducing, like, and the sheriff and the warden, and they get some booze and that. And what a great, I'm sorry, I'm gonna reminisce. I'm gonna lose track here. Again, I know I'm gonna lose track. But hearing that just changed you, influenced you.
Oh
Incredible.
yeah, man. Yeah.
So give me a little bit more of the progress.
Well,
I know.
started learning guitar at 12 or 13, and kind of kept that going. And a big influence on me. I'm from the same town as the Kentucky Headhunters, so seeing those guys around town, I'd see their bus, leaving the grocery store. And I got into their music. It was obviously a bridge between the music I grew up with, the country stuff, and then the music that I really fell in love with, like like Chuck Berry and BB King, all that stuff. It was a nice segue into that. So being around those guys has always been a really special thing for me, because you see that you don't have to move to LA or Nashville. You can do it all from home, and kind of build your own thing. And obviously, it's took them around the world. They're Grammy winners, all kinds of awards, and it just a very, very good motivational experience, being around those guys. So slowly started to put together a band. The bass player in my dad's band, he was getting married, going on his honeymoon or whatever. So he said, "All right, my brother's going to come fill in. He knows how to play bass a little bit." Well, his brother turned out to be John Seeley, the other co-founding member of the band. So John and I hit it off, and we were like, man, we really want to do our own thing. This two-step country stuff that we're playing in these cover bands is great, but it would be nice, to play something that had a little more spirit in it. So we got together and just started, learning to play together and learning to play all this music. And got the band going. And our first album came out in 2014, which was it's a blues album called it's a tribute to John Brim.
That's
John Brim was a bluesman from here in Kentucky. And then he moved to Chicago in his teens, and he was on the Chess Records label in the 50s,
yeah.
along with Muddy Waters and Little Walter and Howlin' Wolf. And Greg Martin kind of brought this idea to us, from the guitar player from the Headhunters. He's like, "Man, listen to this stuff and tell me what you think. See if maybe your band would have an interest in redoing some of these tunes." Well, of course, we fell in love with it, because it was right. It was right in the vein of stuff that we were listening to anyway. So we're like, man, this could be a really fun project. So Greg came on as the producer, and he decided. He
Hi.
said, "Hey, let's get Jimmy Hall from Wet Willie to come up and play harmonica on this, because he can play all this harp stuff really well." So that was one of our first experiences with Jimmy Hall, was doing that album with him. And he come in there, man. He would nail it in one take every time, but he'd always be like, "Man, I can do it better. I can do it better." And he'd end up doing, 3 or 4 takes each time, but we always ended up using the first one, because
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
take always has the mojo in it.
He's a bit of a perfectionist and never thought it was quite
Yeah, yeah,
right.
we were all drooling over every note he
Yeah.
played, and he was like, "No, I can do it better. I can do it better." So it was Jimmy's a character. He's a good friend.
I like that when you say that, but you always use the first take. You kind of let him do his thing and do it again.
Yeah.
But it was always the first take that was best. Ladies and gentlemen, the Otis Band. I am talking with Boone Froggett. Again, it's the otisband.com. I've got all the links up. Facebook, the Otis Band, on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, folks, these days, or Squitter, Otis Band. I don't know. I say X, people say, well, where's that? I said on X, Twitter. Oh yeah. Or if you say Twitter, you mean X, and I get corrected if you all the time. On YouTube, Otis Band Official. On Instagram, Otis Band Official. I've got to ask you, at your, again, it's all relative, at your young age, listening to some of that stuff, your peers, I mean, I get you hang around people that kind of like the same music as I did growing
Sure.
up, but then there was that part of me that was listening to the Super Blues Band with oh my God, Muddy Waters and uh, Howlin' Wolf, and that my peers and I loved them, my friends weren't listening to. What was that like for you? Did you have peers, friends that were like, "What are you listening to that old?" I don't mean critically, but just weren't into what you were all into. Am I making any
Oh,
sense? Any
oh,
sense?
absolutely, absolutely. We experienced that. It's kind of like I remember riding around with my friends and playing in memory of Elizabeth Reed from Live at the Fillmore, and
My
they're like,
God,
who?
Allman Brothers. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. They're like, who wants to listen to a song this long? And I'm like, no, no, it ain't about that. It's a journey. You really got to get into the right space to hear this. But no, man, when we first started, people thought we were crazy because there wasn't really any such thing as a new Southern rock band. They were like, dude, Southern rock's been dead before you were born. There's not going to be any more Southern rock. But that wasn't the case because we as we were growing up, we had Government Mule, we had Blackberry Smoke, and then recently, folks like Chris Stapleton has skyrocketed this American roots music, through the roof. So at the time we were coming up, active rock was real big. So everybody was trying to get us to tune down and listen to all these active rock bands. We're like, man, that stuff just really doesn't move us. We want, you know, we want we want people to really feel something. We're not necessarily trying to get on the radio,
yeah.
but we just we like to hit on emotions when we play. I'm like,
And
this
you,
music doesn't make me feel like Ray Charles does, or like or like the Allman Brothers do. So that's we come from a pretty pure place when we're trying to create this stuff.
It's funny when you say I've got a couple of. I lived in Atlanta for a while, and I've got. I'm not going to take the bore you with my stories, but Allman
Yeah,
Brothers. When I moved out, I quickly everybody knew the Allman Brothers. Everybody from the Atlanta area supposedly knew. And I'm going to take quick. I was driving a cab because I needed a car, and
sure.
went out with my girlfriend who was a stripper. It's and she was always talking about how she knew the Allman Brothers were party with you. So I went out to the airport. Go out to the airport to pick up fares if you were, as a
Sure.
cabbie. And she said, "Oh, there's Dickie Betts." And I remember saying, "Oh, Kat, thinking she didn't know him. You know him." I said, introduce me to Dickie Betts." So she yells, "Oh, Dickie!" And it's like Cat. It's like, oh my gosh, she really did know him. But that music, sorry for that, but that music is so powerful today. I still love listening to Allman Brothers. And there's something,
Awesome.
it's a feeling like what you do with the Otis Band.
Yeah, if you look at our first record, we were taking old blues songs and putting a new spin on them, giving them a new life, and that's the same thing that all our heroes were doing as well, such as the Allman Brothers' first record had a fair amount of covers on it, a Led Zeppelin one full of old blues covers, and Canned Heat and other things like that. So that's a way of continuing that music for us. I think I think the blues gave them the same thing as as the brothers gave us later on. It's all about the feeling and the vibe of the music, but everybody interprets it differently.
Everybody interprets it differently. And again, I'm talking with Boone Froggett from the Otis Band, theotisband.com, doing something. What do you hear from elderly people like myself that love that kind of music and hear young people doing it and doing it so incredibly, amazingly well? I don't want to, I mean, I get the feeling when I listen to you, and then you find out you're 33. It's like, oh my God, it's kind of mind blowing.
Oh, well, thanks, man. There's kind of two
You
sides.
listen, you're
There's
doing it. Hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, you're good.
You're the gift here. I mean, doing
Thanks,
the
man.
music that you do. What do you hear from older people?
Well, there's kind of two sides of that coin. There's folks like you who are really appreciative of it, but there's the other side of we've seen that before. I
Um,
saw the real Allman Brothers. Then there's some people that's still that it feels kind of weird about it, like like man, this stuff is coming around again. What's this about? But there's the majority of the people are like you are really appreciative of what we're doing and glad that the music is continuing on in whatever way.
and touching younger people. Yeah, obviously touching young people, touching, people your age and younger. That idea of older people being dismissive, well, it's not as good. Well, I I I don't get that at all, by the way. And very quickly, I'll tell you, Luther Right and the Wrongs, I got pitched by a publicist. They did Rebuild the Wall, which was Pink Floyd's The Wall, when they did in kind of a country bluegrass. And when I first got pitched, I thought,
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know about that. And I was a huge Pink Floyd fan. I still like some Pink Floyd at that time. And it's like, open your mind and listen to it. And I had some people that were like outraged. I was like, how dare you do a Pink Floyd? And other people that are like, wow, that's cool, man. Just people need to open their minds, even at my elderly age.
Yeah, it's
Minds,
an
let's open your ears, whatever. Go ahead.
it's That's an interesting thing, man. It's like there's the tribute band thing is so big right now because people want to go back and
Oh,
relive that experience again. But at the same time, they're reluctant to go out and see a upcoming band that has a lot of the same influences. So people that go see that stuff are harder to sell on the idea of
that's
of a
interesting.
new Southern rock blues rock band.
That's interesting, Boone. That is interesting, and I get the tribute thing. I get that. Um, I get people want to hear that, especially if, well, I shouldn't say especially if those musicians are gone, even if they're still around and doing it. I know they are very popular, but still, open your mind to something else. Oh, try
Yeah,
something. It's kind of like foods. I'm always like, oh, let me try that. Oh, that tastes really good, or I'm not eating that again. But
yeah.
just try, just open your mind and listen. And again, for someone approaching, I dare say, is again 71. It's to hear you do that music that I loved as a youth and growing up, and doing it so beautifully well. And in this my pile of stuff here, I've got that one that Drive to This Tune with Caution. It was one. There's a head with single. I just love that. I love that beautiful review.
Oh man, that was a great review. You don't get reviews like that very often.
Well, I would say to you, and I say respectfully and with great admiration of your youth, young man, you expect them, because there's coming more and more people that hear that. Again, going back and doing what you did, with the tribute to John Brim, Otis doing Tough Times and doing those songs and so well. Betty Harris, how'd you get turned on? I've got a little bit in the background in the press release, but Betty Harris, tell me.
Man, we were playing Macon, Georgia a lot, and we had found this little record store called Haversham's Records, and I love it. We go there every time because there's no country records, there's no rock records there. The only records they have are soul, blues, and gospel, which is
Right.
which is great. You always find interesting things. So I picked up a copy of this. It was a New Orleans soul compilation, and I saw the meters were on there and Dr. John, and it was like $1. I'm like, yeah, I'll roll the
Yeah.
dice on this. So I stuck it in my need to listen to pile. Some time went on, and I picked it back up, and there's some great stuff on there. There's like I said, the meters on there doing Sissy Strut and their Dr. John stuff, and then it got to Betty Harris to doing There's a Break in the Road, and it just floored me. It was almost like listening to myself in some ways because of the way the band played. The band was so laid back. And then the guitars are interesting because there was a lot of fuzz and feedback going on, and then her soulful vocals, and
But
I really resonated with the message of the song because it was kind of what we were going through as a band at the time, and I was like, you know what, I think we could probably do a pretty decent version of this. So I brought it into the guys. I was like, man, y'all listen to this song. Let me tell you what you think, and we all kind of had the same idea. So we worked it up, kind of did our own arrangement of it, and went down to the Rock House studio with Kevin McKendry and laid it down.
so again, great song. And I love you guys doing it. And when people that have heard me play it, respond really, really well. And they
Good.
think it's an old, I should say old band, older, like it's something that I dug up from I don't know, what do I want to say, 30 years ago, or, oh, who's that? Who is that? 30, maybe 40 years ago. I don't know. But that's what's interesting to me. I said, no, it's new. I mean, this is Otis. This is, oh, listen to it. It's great.
That's
And
right.
they're kind of surprised. The response that I've had, the people that have emailed what are really surprised, and again, delighted. It's delightful for me. I know I've said this numerous times, Boone Froggett, that for me it's very, what do I want to say, soul satisfying to know that young people like as yourself, that Otis is bringing this sound back, and great, not just doing a note to note cover of something that sounds old but is new. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
Yeah,
and
yeah, I got you.
I never know these days. And it's inspirational. It's like, yeah, yeah, and soul satisfying.
Well, man, that's a we're hitting the mark then, because that's
You're
that's
hitting the
that's that's
mark.
the that's the way we want you to feel when you hear our stuff,
You
man.
get the
So
feeling.
we're
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, we
Some
we really appreciate it.
I appreciate, as you say that, the feeling, there are some things that I think people listen to and like, myself included, and there's other things that evoke a feeling,
Yeah.
which is what you get, that feeling. You love the music, love it, and you get a certain feeling that takes you somewhere, back, forward, inside, out, whatever. But is, again, I'm going to use the term soul satisfying. Tell us a little bit more about your band, about the
Well, new lineup of the band now. When the pandemic hit, we had the original drummer Andrew decided he wanted to stay home, do the family thing, and Steve was on guitar. He decided that he wanted to go play bass in this active rock band. So John and I had the work of coming up with the other 50% of the band again. So that was an interesting journey, because I'd never quite been in that situation before. But man, we found the two perfect guys that fit the bill to be in the band. And I can, the first time the four of us got in a room, played together, I can still remember that vividly. I'm like, all right, yeah, this
Yeah.
is it. And so people's been so receptive of us, coming back and getting out there and playing some shows. And got some shows coming up. Looking forward to doing those. We're playing in Huntsville, Alabama coming up, and then in Marion, Illinois. And we got a bunch of stuff that's getting ready to announce. So looking forward
Yeah.
to getting out there and playing live.
Yeah, because I see at the otisband.com, you've got some of the upcoming gigs, but you say there's more coming.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Any oh, see, this is going to be very self-serving. Ohio, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, anything on the radar? Should
uh,
I not say? Should I not ask? That's
there's
selfish of me.
there's some stuff getting ready to happen, man.
Yay, yay. Yes, good. Because I think the live experience, from what I hear and from what, hearing you, and I just, the live experience has got to be amazing. When you're, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, man, that's our favorite thing to do, to really experience this band. You got to see us, live, because we have a lot of improvisational moments in the show, and when we all play off each other, which is very reminiscent of Traffic and
Sure.
Government Mule and the Allman Brothers, and that type of thing. It's a
Wait,
lot of fun.
well, I've got to ask, playing live now. I know when you said being on stage at 8 years old, and I'm just marveled at that. I just think that is so cool, because that's what the family did. So I love how
Yeah,
you said it earlier. It's like, well, it wasn't you, not your words. I'm not quoting, but it's kind of like, well, of course I did. That's what we did at home. That's what I did. It wasn't like, what do I do now? It's, you're used to that. Now,
yeah.
what is it like having people cheer? I just can't imagine people getting into music. What's that feeling for you?
Oh man, it's almost indescribable. You talk to people that's been on the road and done this a long time, and they'll tell you, man, that's the most addictive drug there is. It's really unbeatable, because you feed off the energy of all those people, and it allows you to reach higher, and do things that you couldn't do that you couldn't do otherwise. You can hit new notes, you can go different places, depending on the crowd. And a lot of times we'll even change our set list depending on the direction that the people are taking us. If we're feeling like the people are more interested in the jam stuff, we'll start extending things and jamming out farther. But if it's a more maybe like a blues type show, we'll bring out more of the blues stuff, and play Jimmy Reed or something. But we kind of like to let the people kind of guide us to an extent. I mean, we have things we do in every show. It more or less, we have a couple different intros we use, and we pretty much end the same way. But in the middle is always there's always room for some adventure.
That's interesting. You actually changed the set list, and
Yeah.
don't know that I've ever heard that before from anyone. I think what do I know? But people say, you look at the set list and they play the set, and I get that, but you actually get the feeling from the audience and will like communicate that with the other members of the band and Otis.
Yeah, we kind of have a language on stage almost. Like I can redirect the band pretty quick, and then especially in jam moments, our drummer Dale really kind of controls where we're going to go as well. But I say if we jam and stretch out, and I kind of see we're losing people, I'll get kind of make sure that we get out of there in time, and kind of get back to some different material, because some people really appreciate it, like when you go to Macon, Georgia, or somewhere like that, where jamming is more prevalent, with big Southern rock town, and they're used to it. It's all great, but sometimes, for opening for the Headhunters or something like that, where people are not quite as used to the jam stuff, we'll change our set list a bit.
That's interesting. I'm fascinated by that. I think that's really, really cool that you will actually do that. Do you find geographically that people are different? You're saying like in Macon, Georgia, one way, and
Oh yeah, Macon, Georgia. I know that we're expected to jam because the
yeah,
Allman Brothers formed
oh,
there, Government Mule formed there. That's where Capricorn Records were. That when people come out to a rock show there, they expect some jamming. Up and northeast is another
yeah,
area where the jam band thing is big, and they appreciate it.
yeah.
And of course, in Europe has a totally different appreciation for Southern music than anywhere we've been in the world. It's really amazing,
Really, in
man.
Europe.
It's just, yeah, man. You know, they have a different respect for music there. Before the show starts, they'll go get them, two or three drinks, because they don't want to lose their place in the crowd, and they don't want to miss anything. And that kind of reverence for the music is just something that we're we're not even used to it. So when we go there and get to play, it's a real treat to play for those people. It's kind of like, as bad as we all want to play like the Beatles over here, we can't do it because we don't have that geographic DNA that allows us to play like the Beatles. So it's the same thing for them. They can't really have a lot of Southern rock bands over there, but if they do, it doesn't have quite the same feeling, because they didn't listen to the same things, or hear the same stories, and come
Yeah.
from the same area as we did. So it's kind of a invasion over there, in its own right, man. People really appreciate it.
That's fascinating. How you're appreciated in your, and of course, and you were saying the jam, like in Macon, Georgia, and in the Northeast, and different geographical areas
Yeah,
have.
and then there's
Go ahead.
places like, there's spots in like the Midwest, and even where we're from here, Kentucky. There's some areas that don't, maybe they haven't been exposed to those type of bands before, and there's more song oriented crowds, and then there's more experience oriented crowds. So the longer you're out there playing, you kind of learn the difference between the two.
And you feel that, and you feel that in Europe, and
Oh yeah.
that's got to be that's got to be amazing playing in another country that may or may not speak the same language even, but the language of music is universal.
Yeah, yeah, Man, if you can make somebody feel something, you can make them feel that feeling anywhere, no matter where you go. So it's really a great gift to have.
And if you don't mind if I ask, if you don't mind, Boone Froggett, uh, personal life, how is it for your personal life? Can I?
It's it's great, man. It really takes a lot of balance, and it really takes a lot of time, to get it right. But my wife is really, she's appreciative of what we do, and she's a big music fan herself. If
Oh,
we're home, we're always listening to records. We're always listening, to jazz stuff. She loves Shirley Scott, the B3 jazz organist. She loves
I
Shirley
love the
Scott,
B3.
and
Oh God, I love that sound, that or the B3, the ham. Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, if we're at home, we're usually listening to that or Miles Davis or something like that. Man, she's really into jazz, so she appreciates what I do and
Beautiful.
puts up with it pretty good.
Beautiful. Married how long?
Let's see here. Almost 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And
Oh,
you
well, thank you.
mind briefly telling me the love story, how, if you're cool with it, how you got together with?
Well, I was friends with her dad, who was a guitar player here in the area, and that's kind of how we met, was through him, and then we hit it off pretty good, and it's kind of stuck together ever since. So it's been good. No complaints.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I hope you didn't
Oh,
went in
no
that
problem.
direction. TheOtisBand.com, Facebook, The Otis Band. We've got all the links up. LouisFreeShow.com, WFMJ.com, et cetera, et cetera. On X or Twitter, Otis Band. On YouTube, Otis Band Official, as on Instagram. Boone Froggett, Otis, I am so honored to be able to talk with you. It's so inspirational, again, for a guy like me to hear the music that you're doing, the take that how you're taking it and how you're doing it. And I hope to be able to see you in concert before I get too much older. Well,
Well, if we make it up your way, man, we'll get you in. We'll hang out, man. We'll have fun.
I'm gonna be watching. I hope it was okay, the interview. I love it. I love the music, and I love turning people on the music. And I do appreciate when people say, well, what's that? Who's, thinking it was some older and it's new, as
Hey,
you are, Otis
that's a
Band.
great compliment.
And it's sincere. Thank you so much for doing the gig with me. I hope we can do it again sometime. Best success. Say hi to your wife for me. Let her know you shared the story, if you will. Thanks,
I
man.
will.
It was great.
I
Thank you so much.
enjoyed it, man.
Thank you. That's Boone Frog